Have you ever wondered that in some apps when you open then you see a logo that is drawn on the screen, line by line, and then the logo is displayed completely? This is a very cool effect and you can achieve this effect in your Flutter app if you watch this video till the end. In this video, I will show you how you can draw a logo on the screen line by line using Custom Painter and Animated Builder in Flutter. So, let's get started. So here I have an empty project in which I have this stateful widget my app, so now come above here, and first add the with then single ticker provider state mixin to the state class. So this single ticker provider state mixin is used to create an animation controller. So now come down here and create a late variable of type animation controller and name it controller, and then here create an init state method, and inside this method, initialize the controller variable by creating an animation controller object, and pass this as the vsync, so this is coming from the single ticker provider state mixin, and then set the duration of the animation to 3 seconds, and then call the forward method on the controller to start the animation. So this is how you can create an animation controller in Flutter. Then come outside of this init method and here create a dispose method, and inside this method, call the dispose method on the controller to dispose of the controller when the widget is removed from the widget tree. Then come inside the build method, and then inside this center widget and here create an animated builder widget, so the animated builder widget is used to create an animation that is driven by a value of the animation controller. So here set the animation property to the controller, and then inside the builder method, return a custom paint widget, and set the size of the custom paint widget to 200 by 200, and then set the painter property to a new object of the logo painter class, and don't worry about this error, we will fix this in a moment, then pass the value of the controller to the constructor of the logo painter class. So this controller.value denotes the current value of the animation controller, and then come down here and create a new class and name it logo painter, and this class extends the custom painter class. Now first here add the 2 required methods of this class. So the first method is the paint method, and the second method is the should repaint method, so the paint method is used to paint the logo on the screen, and the should repaint method is used to determine whether the logo should be repainted or not. Now come inside in this class and here create a double variable as progress, and then create a constructor and pass the progress variable to this constructor, so this progress variable will hold the current value of the animation controller. And why the hell this extends custom painter is showing above here, please remove that, then come inside the paint method, and now in our widget wisdom logo, some part of is in black color and some part is in red color, so first create a paint object and name it black point, and then set the color of this paint object to black, and then set the stroke width to 6, and then set the style of this paint object to stroke, so this paint object will be used to paint the black part of the logo. Now do the same for the red paint, and just copy-paste the above property and change the color to red, so this paint object will be used to paint the red part of the logo. Now create a path object and name it path1, so path1 variable is get used for the black part of the logo, and then call the move to method on this path object, and set the x and y coordinates of the starting point of the path. So now in this corner I'm attaching a blank white canvas and I will draw everything for this path related thing so that you can have a better understanding for this, and still you haven't get the path thing correctly then please let me know in the comments, and I'll create a separate video for the custom painter and path. So here add the x value to the 30% of the width of the canvas, and then add the y value to the 30% of the height of the canvas, so this is the starting point of the path. And then call the line to method on this path object, and set the x to 20% of the width of the canvas, and then set the y to 10% of the height of the canvas, so this is the first point of the path, so these above 2 lines will draw a line from this point to this point, and we will see a black line on the screen. Now let's create a single line for the red color, so for that create a new path object and name it path2, and then call the move to method on this path object, and set the x and y coordinates of the starting point of the path. So set the x value to 35% of the width of the canvas, and then set the y value to 100% of the height of the canvas, so this is the starting point of the path. And then call the line to method on this path object, and set the x to 50% of the width of the canvas, and then set the y to 100% of the height of the canvas, so this is the first point of the path, so these above two lines will draw a line from this point to this point, and we will see a red line on the screen. So now we have two paths, one for the black color and one for the red color. So now we need to draw these paths on the screen, so first calculate the total length of these paths, so create a variable and name it total length, and then call the compute metrics method on the path1 object. So the compute metrics method returns an iterable of path metrics, and then call the fold method on the result of this method, and set the initial value to 0, and then pass a function to this fold method, and inside this function, add the previous value to the length of the current metric, so this will calculate the total length of the path 1, and then do the same for the path 2. So call the compute metrics method on the path 2 object, and then call the fold method on the result of this method, and set the initial value to 0, and then pass a function to this fold method, and inside this function, add the previous value to the length of the current metric, so this will calculate the total length of the path 2, and then add these two lengths to get the total length of the paths. Then here create a variable for the current length and then assign the value of addition of total length and progress, so this will give us the current length of the path. So now we have the total length of the paths and the current length of the paths, so now we need to draw these paths on the screen. So first check if the current length is less than or equal to the total length of the path 1, so if this condition is true, then draw the path 1 on the screen, so call the drawPath method on the canvas object, and pass the path 1 object with the current length, and then pass the black point object, so this will draw the path 1 on the screen, then here add the else condition. So if the current length is greater than the total length of the path 1, then draw the path 2 on the screen, so call the drawPath method on the canvas object, and pass the path 2 object with the remaining length. So this will draw the path 2 on the screen. So now you may ask why we have used path 2 here, so the reason is that we have drawn the path 1 on the screen, and then we'll calculate the remaining length of the path 2, so now come above here and create a remaining length variable. Assign its value to the current length minus the total length of the path 1, so this will give us the remaining length of the path 2. Now come below this method and here create animated path method, and this will have original path and length as the parameters, so this method will create an animated path. So first create a path object and name it path, and then create a variable for the current length and set it to 0, so this variable will hold the current length of the path. So now create a for loop and iterate through the result of the compute metrics method of the original path, so this will give us an iterable of path metrics, so this for loop will help us to iterate through these path metrics. So now create a variable for the remaining length and set it to the length minus the current length, so this will give us the remaining length of the path. So now check if the remaining length is less than the length of the current metric, so if this condition is true, then add the path of the current metric to the path object. So call the extractPath method on the current metric object, and pass 0 as the start value, and the remaining length as the end value, so this will add the path of the current metric to the path object, and then break the loop, so this will create an animated path. Then here add a else condition and inside this condition, add the path of the current metric to the path object, so call the extractPath method on the current metric object, and pass 0 as the start value, and the length of the current metric as the end value, so this will add the path of the current metric to the path object, and then add the length of the current metric to the current length, so this will update the current length. So this is how you can create an animated path. Then come inside the shouldRepaint method, and here return true, so this will repaint the logo on the screen. So now save the file and run the app, and the app is installed and we are just seeing a red line on the screen. This is not how I've supposed to be. Let's do one thing, add one more black line to the path, so for that come here and add the line to method on the path 1 object, and set the x to 0% of the width of the canvas, and then set the y to 10% of the height of the canvas. Now save the code and still we can't see a single black dot on the screen. I guess there is some mistake in the code. Let me check that. So here I have added the wrong length to the path. So rather than adding total length and progress we need to multiply it. Now save the code. We can see the black line is animating, but after the animation this black line is disappearing, so let's also fix that. So for that come inside this else condition and here draw the path 1 on the screen, so call the drawPath method on the canvas object, and pass the path 1 object, and then pass the black point object. So this will draw the path 1 on the screen. Now save the code and hell yay. Everything is fine. Now let's complete our Widget Wisdom logo line by line, so that you will have a better idea of the custom painter and path in Flutter. So now come into the path 1, and then here add the line to method on this path object. So now let's quickly break down the path for our icon. So here we have this canvas, in which the height is 200 and the width is 200, and at some places I've added the height and width of the canvas in percentage. So now we want to draw this logo in this canvas, by using its height and width. So for that, now the next line in our logo is this line, and for this line I want that this line should end at the 35% of the width and 80% of the height, so this will lend my line here. And if save the code, then we will have something like this. Now let's quickly complete the code. So in my logo these lines should come at this places, and I've mentioned all the x, y coordinates in this canvas. Now just replicate these codes in your code. And now when you save the code, then you can see we have our animated logo on the screen. I know it's not looking very beautiful, but I hope you have understood how you can draw a logo on the screen line by line using Custom Painter and Animated Builder in Flutter. So that's it for this video. And if you liked this video, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Widget Wisdom. Until then, keep fluttering and keep coding.